That Red Bull's sick.
Fernando Alonso wins. Bahrain didn't necessarily deliver. Is Melbourne going to get us back on the right track? Jenson Button, he's a winner.
17 races to go. This is Formula One.
One of those special circuits, very, very high speed. It's really about just having the car flow and using all of the road.
Slicks for Button. Brave.
It's not just about the speed, it's about making the right calls. He called that first stop and that got him the win.
Hamilton, so he's making a gamble as well.
Whose call was it to bring me in? Terrible idea.
The strategy was not right.
This just turns it into a complete lottery.
Box, 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 box.
Oh! Webber's gone off! There's been a collision!
Oh, the feels so bad!
Massive thunderbolt.
3 big forks of lightning!
And what is this? Don't know.
The visibility is nothing.
The race has been stopped. One winner. His name, Jenson Button.
Thundering like crazy out there. Whoa, that's how slippery it is.
Throw in some rain and suddenly Formula One takes on a new dimension.
Rain. It was the one word on everyone's lips yesterday as the Malaysian sky delivered a deluge that created disarray on the track and led to a dramatic qualifying session. Of course, today the engineers will have their eyes on the weather again and looking as much at these radars as they are at the racing cars. But no matter how much you prepare in Formula One, sometimes you just get caught out. I wonder what today is going to bring. Welcome to live coverage of the Malaysian Grand Prix. Even in the blazing sun, this circuit poses quite a test for a Formula One car. Tight technical sections, high-speed corners and 2 long, fast straights also combine to offer a true test of a driver's ability. And then you throw the weather into the mix. Weather that's as unpredictable as it is spectacular. Stifling sauna heat one moment, tropical storms and high winds the next. Remember, 12 months ago, we didn't even get to the finish. And the finish of the season is still a long way off. The circuit here in Sepang is just one of a number of tests as the year progresses. Point and squirt street circuits in Monaco and Singapore, classic tracks such as Silverstone, Spa and Monza, and even our first foray into Korea. 2010 is starting to heat up very nicely indeed. And every single one of the 24 drivers gearing up for today's Grand Prix will be desperately hoping it doesn't get any hotter here. At the moment, the air temperature is 31 degrees, and over the course of a typical Grand Prix, a driver can lose 3 kilos of body fluid. And Eddie, judging by your shirt yesterday in qualifying, you probably lost double that, I think.
Well, it was extremely hot. I just can't imagine what overcame me. Maybe it was the excitement of the occasion, the race, the qualifying, all of those things that Ferrari and McLaren were not doing correctly. Maybe it got to me and the shirt sort of seemed to explode.
I love that. He's even blaming his sweaty shirt on Ferrari and McLaren. Stick around to find out why if you didn't see qualifying yesterday. But it's these kind of conditions that really throw up a lot of variables for drivers. Sports stars love to limit those variables as much as possible, but we could see form go right out of the window this weekend, couldn't we?
Yeah, we've seen it many times before when you have changing weather conditions, which is exactly what we're expecting here this weekend. When that happens, it really is a question of who's bravest, who's going to set it out, or who's going to be out on track on the tyres at the right time. So it's going to be very unpredictable once that happens later today.
And you were racing here a couple of years ago. You've raced here in the rain. I remember a classic in 2001. What's it like when you're gearing up for a Grand Prix and you know that at the moment the sun is shining, it's a lovely blue sky up there, but in the blink of an eye it can change?
Well, if you're at the front of the grid, you don't want that to happen, because you know the cleanest race you can have is a dry race and take your speed all the way to the checkered flag. If you're sitting in the second half of the grid, it's a great opportunity because anything can happen. So, you know, pretty much you'll have the top 10 will be looking for one thing and the bottom 10 another.
OK, well, last weekend before the race in Australia, people had started to ask, has Formula One lost the ability to entertain? Then we had a small sprinkling of rain, and it was a pretty special race, wasn't it? Well, yesterday in qualifying, it wasn't a sprinkling of rain, and there was certainly no shortage of drama. Here's Ted Kravitz.
It was one of the most dramatic, chaotic and entertaining qualifying sessions for many years. Ultra-professional teams staffed by the best brains in the business caught out by the Malaysian weather. It began raining just before the start of qualifying. With the track getting wetter by the minute, the smart thing to do was to go straight out and get a time on the board before the weather got worse. But with 24 Constructors' Championships between them, Ferrari and McLaren held their cars in the garage. The weather radar said the rain would stop halfway through the session. The weather radar was wrong. If anything, the rain fell harder, and by then it was too late. That left Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso and Felipe Massa with too much to do on the soaking track, while Jenson Button aquaplaned off and was left to find his way back to an embarrassed team.
It's stopping the rain a bit, and then we plan to go out, but then after a while the rain starts to very heavily. It was definitely a wrong decision.
It's a lesson learned. Again, what can I say? I mean, I just got to laugh at it.
We went in the wrong place in the wrong moment, but the race is tomorrow, not today.
I'm in front of 3 of my championship rivals, I suppose. That's the best way of looking at it, really, but behind a lot of other rivals, which is a tough one. But yeah, we made the wrong call.
On a day when old-school weather detection methods proved more effective than high-tech radars, Lotus Racing shone. Both their cars out-qualified both Ferraris. Heikki Kovalainen starred with 15th.
Of course, you know, we're a little bit lucky today, but in a way also we played the strategy right. If you look at McLaren's or Ferraris, they didn't think it was going to rain that much, and they missed the window at the beginning of the session. So it's all credit to the team as well, and we're making good progress.
Renault were quickest for much of Q2 thanks to this cheeky move by Robert Kubica, overtaking everyone in the pit lane. Kubica would eventually find a path through the rain to 6th, while teammate Vitaly Petrov had other things to worry about. Williams enjoyed a strong qualifying with Nico Hülkenberg career best 5th, while Force India also got both cars in the top 10, Adrian Sutil showing the car has great mechanical grip with 4th fastest. It was touch and go if Michael Schumacher would make it through to final qualifying, but once he was there, he burnt out his tyres too soon. So it was left to Nico Rosberg to find his way through the murk. He ended up P2.
At times it was just trying to survive out there. But all in all, it was a good qualifying. We made the right decision at the right time. Sometimes we even got it wrong, but still managed to get through. So I'm very pleased for everybody to be on the front row. Is nice.
But the key to pole position would be making the right call at the right time. With the track drying out after a mid-session stoppage and no new rain falling, Sebastian Vettel and the rest played safe on wet tyres. But Mark Webber took a gamble on the intermediates and hit the jackpot.
Mark Webber then shooting for pole. He's done it.
Mark's call in the end was a bit genius. He was the only black sheep in the top 10, and it worked. Still being 3rd on the grid, I think we did a very good job.
Vettel in Bahrain, Vettel in Australia, but Mark Webber's hit back in Malaysia.
When here is so hot, you know that the standing water can go down pretty quickly, and there's so many fast corners with long lateral loading. So I already reported to Kyron that the full wets really have a hard time quite quickly, even when it's still pretty wet. So I was pretty keen to give the Inters a crack, and it worked out well.
So an intense qualifying leaves Mark Webber on pole position for the first time since Germany last year. Nico Rosberg with his first front row start. Williams 5th and 7th, while Michael Schumacher makes it 5 Germans in the top 8. Career bests for Kobayashi and Petrov, Jenson Button's the first McLaren 17th, Fernando Alonso's 19th, Hamilton's 20th, and Felipe Massa 21st. If the weather breaks on the grid, teams may start from the pit lane in order to change the car to a wet setup.
And we'll have to wait and see whether that happens. One man who you can be quite confident won't be starting from the pit lane is Mark Webber. Just the second pole position of his career in just over 3/4 of an hour. It was a tyre choice yesterday. At the moment, no tyres, no wheels on this Red Bull. We'll wait and see what tyre choice he goes with today. But David, for Mark Webber to make a decision, let's walk down here. I want to get down to McLaren. To make a decision on intermediates in the qualifying session that we had yesterday, he said that as he went out, he had no idea how much grip he'd have. How brave is it of a driver to go with a call like that?
Well, I think the very fact that he was the only one out of those 10 cars out on track that took that decision, it was an extremely brave decision, because it was either going to end up him being the hero of the hour or ending up absolutely last in that top 10 shootout. So obviously he's delighted that he made it stick, and off the back of the difficulties had in the Australian Grand Prix, this is the best place he could possibly hope for after qualifying.
So a great day for Mark Webber. We'll hope to hear from him hopefully before the race gets going. But once again, the midfield teams really stood up as well, didn't they?
Well, we were all talking about them yesterday, and what a great sense of joy for Force India to be up there with both their cars in the top 10, and indeed, of course, Williams. And you know, they've been struggling for a couple of years. Let's hope this might be a kickstart to get them back up into the front. Those two teams are emerging as a really strong opposition to the Big Four.
Okay. Martin Whitmarsh will hopefully come and join us in just a few... in fact, he's appearing right behind us. Martin, do dive in. We're live at the moment. Good to see you. Not the qualifying session you were hoping for yesterday. Just talk us through the decision-making process as far as you were concerned during qualifying.
Well, I think we're probably going to buy some more seaweed now, but we were relying on technology. We've been looking at radar for the weekend. It had been reliable. I think this end of the pit lane generally watched that, and well, we got it wrong.
Can you just explain, actually, sorry, Eddie. You all have the same radar available to you. All the teams sign up to, is it Meteo France?
Correct, yeah.
Right.
And it showed the start, and it started just when we thought it would start. It didn't stop when we thought it was going to stop. So we believed it was going to dry out at the end of that session. I think this end of the pit lane did generally. It obviously didn't.
Martin, it's incredibly feeble excuse, though, really, isn't it? It's almost unexcusable. I mean, I've been very critical on stage about yourself and Ferrari. I even heard words called Muppets, which is not a very nice word. How would you respond to somebody calling you and Ferrari Muppets in yesterday's qualifying session?
Well, I guess at the end of the day, if you're up at this end of the pit lane, you've got to put up with those sorts of things, haven't you? The informed opinion like that. But you know, we this end all left it to the end. We probably, you know, we're here to win, and you get it
Martin,
wrong
sorry,
because you concentrate.
I've got to stop you there.
Yeah.
There has to be a strong human element in this. You can't rely on robots or computers to tell you what's happening on this pit lane.
Do you have people?
Yeah, but we have people. But you know, you can say, well, use the hand. Well, the hand told you it was raining. What the hand doesn't tell you is in 5 minutes' time, is it going to be stopped raining, or going to be raining hard, you know, or raining harder? So we use that information. We got it wrong. And we've got to accept that. Now today, at the moment, that same technology doesn't show as much rain as we'd like to see right now. But nonetheless, we've got to make sure we're pushing hard in this race to get some points.
Well, we can see the amount of rain, actually. This is Lewis Hamilton's onboard during qualifying yesterday. You may well have the choice to make some other big decisions and maybe quieten down those people that called you Muppets during the race today, because you've got cars sitting 17th and 20th. How do you go about getting those guys to the front? What's the strategy? What's the plan?
Well, again, we're hoping for some rain, frankly, or something else to happen. It's very difficult, but you know, the last time we were 17th and 18th, or 17th and 20th, sorry, we won the race, so we don't give up. We're going to give it a good push, but you know, at the moment there isn't as much rain as we'd like to see on the radars, but hopefully it'll come.
You've got significant top speed advantage over all of those cars around you at the back, so presumably the drivers are going to be using that to good effect. How much of that is the F-wing that you've come with, that cunning piece of technology, and how much of that is just a slippy car generally?
No, well, it's a combination of all those things. You know, we've got a good engine from Mercedes-Benz. I think we've got low level of drag, and we've got an F-flap or whatever other people call it, but we have another device. So, you know, some other cars have it as well now, and I'm sure that they'll proliferate over the next few races. But there is a good top-end speed, and certainly Lewis and Jensen have proven they can overtake. That's what they're going to be trying to do in the first few races.
Okay. Should be very exciting. Big day for the F-Duct. I've got a secret theory that as your chairman of FOTA, you and Ferrari have got together, you've gone right to the back to try and spice up the racing to quieten everyone down. What do you think?
We do what we can.
Of course you do. Thanks very much. Give our regards to Jensen and Lewis.
Cheers.
Tell them we hope they go well today. Let's take a wander down here because Adrian Sutil also had a very good qualifying session yesterday for Force India. We're hoping to grab hold of him down there. I was making a joke there about the whole spicing up the show in Formula One. Martin, of course, is the chairman of FOTA at the moment. There have been lots of discussions about how to get things improved. And Eddie, you'll love this. KERS is back on the agenda.
Well, bring back something, because it needs to be spiced up. Let's not fool ourselves. Sprinkles of rain or torrential rain, whichever, Melbourne or here in Kuala Lumpur, we do have a fundamental problem. One car behind another, the gap, you need 3 seconds speed difference between one car and another to successfully overtake. It's too big a gap. We need to, irrespective. Martin is right, we need to find something, and if it is KERS, I'd prefer to see a little booster button for a higher rev situation. It's easier and it gets it done this year. We don't want to wait till next year for it.
But the thing about KERS is it's storing up the energy under braking, which of course increases the green credentials of Formula One, and that's also something that people are talking a lot about, David.
Yeah, but I think Eddie's got a good point about saying that we can do something this year. You know, all engines are controlled to 18,000 RPM maximum. That can easily be within the software, which is controlled by a standard ECU. And, you know, that could easily be set where you get an extra 1,000 RPM, and they could bring it in this year. KERS, for the longer term, of course, does appeal more to the green qualities and manufacturing road cars and things like that.
OK, well, of course, if things carry on as they are at the moment in Formula One, there's no need for any kinetic energy recovery systems, boost buttons or anything like that, because it's just fantastic at the moment. And one man hoping to give us some entertainment today will be Adrian Sutil. Well, Adrian, we all know that you love driving in the rain. You tend to look at home. How hard was it, though, yesterday, particularly the visibility out there?
It was quite hard, yeah, because it was sometimes raining more, sometimes less. It was drying up very quickly, so it was very difficult to find the right tire for the right time on the circuit. And to be on the circuit on the right time, that was the other thing. It was so important. It was a little lottery yesterday, but yeah, we did everything very good.
And we saw you on board there with the amount of rain that was falling. You're starting 4th on the grid. You've never even managed to pick up any points here. What would you hope to achieve today?
Achieving some points, getting some points. Yeah, we were so close in the last races. I mean, the car has the potential, the car is fast, and I feel very good, so I don't see a reason why we shouldn't achieve it today.
Adrian, I have to just think back of the times you were in this position before, not that very often, but nevertheless, when you were in that position, a number and a variety of different things happened to you that excluded you from getting good points. I mean, have you a different strategy? Are you going to be more aggressive? Are you going to stay on the road? What are you going to do?
Well, I think I learned in the last years, and you always try to improve yourself just in a certain way, but on the start especially, you never know what's going to happen. I think on P4 I have a much better and easier life than the guys in the back there, where all the crowd is and where a lot of traffic is always. So I just try to keep it nice and steady, nice and easy in the first corner, and try to stay and keep my position, and everything else. The race is long, so it's nothing can be won in the first corner, really. That's why I just take it easy.
That first corner will be very interesting. 2 German drivers in front of you and a fellow German driver behind you. I'm sure you won't want to take each other off, but have a great race today. I know it's your best ever.
Thank you.
Performance, so well done. Congratulations for that. Now, Felipe Massa. He will have gone to bed last night thinking, just how do I do something special from 21st on the grid? Well, remember, of course, it was here last year. He got a new nickname.
The car is off anyway. Nick, I need a white visor. Please, come on. White visor. Otherwise, I cannot see anything.
Felipe, baby, stay cool. We're bringing you the white visor. Stay cool. We're in a good position. Okay?
Well, little would Felipe Baby have known that his season was going to last just another 7 races before his accident in Hungary. Well, the good news is he's back. He's really in form, and I spoke to him before qualifying yesterday. Well, Felipe, here we are in the pit lane gearing up for this weekend's Grand Prix. And after the accident in Hungary last year, did you ever fear that perhaps you'd never be back behind the wheel of a Formula One car?
No, not really. Even after the accident, I mean, I was okay, even thinking, you know, my view was not 100% right, but I mean, my head was so big. But I never thought I was going to stop my career.
Have you taken a look at the accident on video?
Yeah.
What did you think
Many
when
times.
you saw it?
Unbelievable.
Felipe Massa is in intensive care tonight after he crashed in qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Why have you watched it many times? Is that because it's so hard to believe that it was you involved?
Also, but I wanted to see. I wanted to see what's happened. I wanted to see the details and just to be aware of everything, and no problem to watch.
When you're sitting on the grid preparing for the first race of the year, did you feel any different at all to the Felipe that was racing before Hungary?
No. Exactly the same.
Felipe Massa back in the cockpit.
That knock on the head's not done him any harm at all, is it?
You always have a bit of risk, you know, you're always in high speed, braking late, fighting with another car, so you always have a little bit of risk. So if you are afraid to do that, it's better not to race him.
While you're recuperating from this accident, you get the phone call. Felipe, you've now got Fernando to share the team with. They keep on giving you these difficult teammates, these fast teammates, don't they?
Well, we are driving for Ferrari. You know, when you drive for Ferrari, you always expect that you're going to have a very strong teammate.
And how is it going, just a couple of races in, this relationship between you and Fernando?
It's going very well. I mean, he's quite an experienced driver, so he has also good ideas to help the team, to help the car. So we didn't have so much different direction in terms of working. So he speaks a lot, which is also a bit better than Kimi, which was never speaks. But I think it's going well.
So it's nice to have a teammate you can have a conversation with.
Yeah.
I imagine it probably is. You had your first sort of moment on track together in the last Grand Prix. Fernando was looking really hot. The car was working well for him. He was coming up behind you very quickly.
He's quicker, isn't he, Alonso?
Yeah, he's got to let Alonso go.
Was there ever any moment in your mind where you thought, I might have to pull aside and let this guy come through because he is really flying?
No.
And what did they say to you about it afterwards?
It was a good race.
They were happy that you got the podium?
Yeah, definitely. I was on the podium, so it was a good race. I started 5th, so it was definitely a great race for me. He was also looking what's happened in the first corner with Fernando. It was a great race for him, and we were the team who scored most of the points, so the team was happy.
A moment that we found really incredible actually happened right here on the pit wall. We can see Rob Smedley's name just here. This is where all the conversations are had during the race, and you and Rob speak quite a lot during the race. There was one point where he gave you quite in-depth information about how to take a certain corner better. Is that a regular thing for you?
Yeah.
Felipe, the last corner, which is a problem, you're losing too much in the back off that you have to do in the very final corner. Wait later to go on the power, and then they can pass you less easy on the straight.
Let's say most of the track you are better, but then maybe in one corner you are losing. So he can say straight away, try to do different lines, try to brake later or try to go early on the throttle, whatever, just in that corner, and then you can try straight away. So this is also what's happened, which is quite important.
And finally, of course, you'll be focusing on a victory this weekend. But having been through what you've been through in the accident last year, how much perspective does it give you over a race weekend like this, not to get frustrated by the little things about being a Formula 1 racing driver?
I mean, it's always nice because, you know, this is what we like to do. This is what I love to do, you know, it's my job, and I always wanted to be what I am. And I think this gives you happiness.
And you feel blessed to be here?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much, pal.
Thanks.
Nice to chat.
Oh, good job.
And, good to see you. Thanks. Well, it's just over half an hour until the race now here in Malaysia. You can see Felipe Massa talking to his race engineer, Rob Smedley, in the back of the garage. And I'm at the front of the garage with the team principal, Stefano Domenicali. Stefano, it must be great to have Felipe back. He's a very popular guy amongst the team here, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, what we said is really, we don't have to forget never and ever what has happened to him last year. So it's good to have him back, and it's good to have a good package. And it's bad not to use the package the right way, if I may say that.
Absolutely. So he's a popular guy here. How popular were you this morning with the drivers starting 21st and 19th on the grid? Did they start questioning the decisions that were made yesterday?
No, not really. I mean, the thing is that we need to see, really hoping not to finish the race in the same position, because for sure that's not good. I think that that's the only thing that I can say. For sure, a lot will depend how the race will develop. It's better to be cautious, not to do stupid things, but the race will be so long that even if now it seems that there will be no rain at the beginning, maybe we'll arrive, so better not to look at the radar and look at the clouds.
There's no maybe about it, Stefano. We're in Malaysia. The rain is going to arrive.
Yeah, that's true, but that's the way it is. We will see. The rain comes when the rain is on the ground.
Absolutely. Very nice analogy. I'm interested to find out what the current psyche is with Fernando Alonso, because last weekend he would have realised for the first time that this team isn't all about him getting race wins. This is about him and Felipe sharing the team equally. How's he been since then?
I think I have to say that it was very, very good. But on that respect, I would say that that was pretty clear since the beginning, the way that we handled the situation. So, you know, that's the way that we live this team, and we will see later during the season how the situation will develop.
Yeah, we will do, and I'm sure that Red Bull being at the very front are glad for an open goal today from yourselves and McLaren.
Oh yes, yesterday we gave to our competitor a great presence for Easter. So let's hope not to do it again today and in the future. For sure, that's not acceptable.
Maybe you'll snatch that chocolate egg back from them today. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, I'm sure Stefano would secretly be hoping for quite a bit of rain today, because you never know with the rain, it can really spice things up. And it tends to be that when the rain arrives, so does the safety car. And what a car it is. Here's Martin Brundle.
The main job of the safety car is to neutralise the race, slow the cars down and avoid the need to use the red flag. The red flag involves a lengthy restart procedure and silent engines, which, while sometimes essential in a big accident, is bad for the show. The safety car takes up position at the front of the grid half an hour before the race, and with 5 minutes remaining, it departs unless, due to heavy rain, the race will be started behind it. After an incident, the safety car is deployed regardless of where the leader is, and a yellow waved flag and safety car board is displayed at each marshal's post. Overtaking is forbidden. Using a green light, cars are signalled past to rejoin the back of the queue until the leader is directly behind. The leader must stay within 10 car lengths and the rest of the pack in close formation. The drivers are allowed to pit at a safe speed, but they can't rejoin until the safety car and the main pack have passed the pit exit and the green light is on. The safety car can take the pack through the pits if there's a start line accident. The orange lights are switched off at the same time as the teams are informed the safety car will pit at the end of the lap. The leader then holds back to control the field in a consistent acceleration to restart the race. There must be no overtaking until they cross the first safety car line on the pit straight. Each lap completed while the safety car is deployed will be counted as a race lap.
Well, the pit wall is the place where the teams will be making the big decisions today. And if you've got a few to make as well, make the right ones, because you can watch today's coverage on the BBC Sport Formula 1 website with extra data feeds. You can press red during the race to ride on board with various drivers. And if you miss anything, remember, you can see it all again via the BBC's iPlayer. And it's also worth reminding you that after today's race, we are live on our interactive forum. Feel free to get involved. We love your emails. Even now, get in touch, f1@bbc.co.uk, and press red after the show to get involved. It's also worth reminding you that today we are going to switch onto BBC 2 at 10 o'clock this morning. That's because of the Easter Sunday service. So at 10 o'clock, do be prepared to do that. But you won't miss a thing, because we will be overlapping. So all you'll miss is the time it takes to change from BBC 1 to BBC 2. We don't want you missing any action at all, because here in Malaysia, the rain brings an awful lot of action.
Every afternoon here, all week, it started to rain and then rained heavily.
It's quite frightening out there, actually. This is not really racing in the wet, it's racing in a swimming pool. When it rains here, it really does rain.
Absolutely torrential rain now. Again, another band of rain has swept across this Sepang circuit.
At least the race is starting an hour earlier this year, and hopefully we'll get to the end of the race before this kicks in.
Because when it rains here, it seriously rains hardcore.
Well, we're now just moments away from the pit lane opening. Behind me here in the garage, you can see Michael Schumacher gearing up for today's race. Over the years, he is a guy who has thrived in these kind of conditions, but it seems that his biggest challenge of all is returning to Formula One.
Well, Michael, this seems like the perfect place to have a bit of an overview of your first 2 races back in Formula One after a 3-year absence. What's your honest assessment of how it's gone so far?
It's been, I think, straightforward at the first race. It was about the maximum our cars could have performed. In Australia, I had a great start, and had it gone through the first corner and not being bumped off and knocked off the front wing, I'm pretty sure maybe even the podium would have been possible. It was a little bit difficult because I got stuck in traffic, and we have noticed already in winter time that our car is pretty sensitive when you follow other cars. That makes it difficult to actually put yourself in an overtaking position. You simply have to wait until somebody makes a mistake.
And look at that, he's coming underneath
He's coming
him.
back at Michael Schumacher.
Championship.
Yes, it's only 10th place, but I came from the back with our difficulties, with having maybe a little bit slower pace car than our competitors up front that were able to overtake. All in all, I think it was okay.
That's not Schumacher-like, is it at all?
Jaime Al-Jaswari never imagined he would be wheel to wheel with Michael Schumacher.
So if the 2004 Michael Schumacher is 10 out of 10 right up here, where would you say you are now? How would you rate yourself out of 10 at the moment?
You know, I'm very close to what I used to be. That's not really the factor. The fact is that there is limits to what we have at the moment available, what we can do, and I drive to those limits, I believe. Yes, there is still a certain percentage that I can improve, absolutely, but it's not like I'm too far away. But if I look at my lap times and my possibilities, I'm sort of squeezing out almost the maximum from the car.
Your teammate has out-qualified and out-finished you in the races. How has that been?
I mean, there seems to be a tendency of opinion that this is strange. No, not at all. Because I mean, I'm coming back after a 3-year break. You have a driver that is known to be very competitive and a very good driver. So I'm not a magician either. Give me a little bit of time, things will improve and will look even better. I remember even when, in the days that I sort of raced my other teammates, there were quite often the situation was pretty equal. But then in certain moments, I could just do with my engineers, I could do better. In our first years in Ferrari, was pretty much a disaster actually. And we're starting at a very high level right now.
So you still believe that you can sort this car out and you can beat Nico Rosberg, you can make this comeback a huge success?
I believe so, yes. I mean, to beat Nico will be hard and difficult, but I have quite a lot of trust in myself, yes.
You've won 7 world titles, yet you constantly seem to be being asked about your form and your fitness and the race results and the decision to return.
You see, sometimes you have a tendency in the positive way or maybe in a negative way. And that's life, so whether people like it or dislike it, that's their decision, but it doesn't influence my own decision.
So 2 races in, it was still the right thing to do to return to the...
Absolutely. I mean, I enjoyed the race in Australia. People may don't understand because they don't understand the details of what has happened and why it couldn't go better, but still, for myself, I enjoyed it.
And how much will Michael enjoy this weekend? This is just a few moments ago. This is him leaving the garage whilst we were hearing from him. Eddie, Michael mentioned during that piece that he's not a magician. The problem for him is, though, that at times during his career it looked like he was a magician, didn't it?
Well, he goes on about this, you know, he talks about not being a magician, but the facts are, and they are cold, hard facts in his eyes. His teammate is over a second a lap quicker on the grid. He's on the front row, and Michael is last or in the back end of the final qualifying in the top 10. So there's a massive gap, particularly in conditions where historically there were always Michael's conditions. He excelled in these kind of given situations, and he's certainly not doing that now.
Okay, you can probably hear all of the cars making their way down the pit lane, heading out to the grid as we speak. The other problem for Michael is that we keep on coming to places like this, David, and they're places where he has shown incredible mastery and mesmerised us with his driving. Here in 2001, he just looked imperious. We come back a few years later and people can't help but directly compare the two.
I've said time and time again, you know, past performance is no guarantee of future success. Michael is finding the 2010 Formula One a bit different to the one that when he last raced 3 years ago. He qualified in 8th place. A lot of work to be done from there, and he will be one of the guys that's hoping for wet conditions. But really, in a dry race, I feel to see how he can make a serious charge towards the podium.
Okay, well, you can see that a man who would love to be on the podium this weekend, Mark Webber, also Sebastian Vettel, both of the Red Bulls are looking to take advantage of what I mentioned to Stefano Domenicali, Eddie. It's a real open goal from some of their front-running rivals.
Well, we know never to bank on those kind of... you know, you need certainty. There's somebody going off the track.
That's Nico Hulkenberg, yeah, having a bit of a problem. Of course, he's one of the rookies.
Any good?
Maybe he's been a bit overawed by the fact that he's starting so far up the grid, David, so early in his career.
Yeah, I think we have to remember that nowadays we have qualifying with low fuel. So the last time he's driven that car, it's been with vapor, you know, 10, 12 kilograms on board. He's now got 160 kilograms on board, and he's trying to find out where the braking point is, where the limit of the car and grip is on this day in history. And obviously there, he found it, passed it, and found where the gravel was.
Yeah, he certainly found where the braking point was, hasn't he, Eddie?
Well, the other thing is, adding to David's comment, what's going to happen when these rookies, so to speak, arrive at the first corner and a lot of experienced guys behind them? I mean, we've got to watch out for all sorts of carry-on here, and the person who I think... The two Red Bulls, they're in particularly strong position.
OK, well, dealing with that first corner is just one of the challenges here. Of course, dealing with the heat is something totally separate. And one guy, can you believe this, has had a Spa flown over to this race just so he can keep cool. The driver in question is Timo Glock, and he's been showing his wonderful facilities to Lee Mackenzie.
It's hot enough in Malaysia wearing ordinary clothes, but can you imagine what it's like doing 56 laps wearing both of these at the same time? Well, Timo, I know drivers have got different ways of keeping cool, so let's see what you've got.
Okay, I will show you.
This is Timo's private room. We can see Timo's spa on the door.
We have a helmet dryer. I mean, if you drive free practice 1 or free practice 2 in between, your helmet is sweating quite a lot. Get the helmet at least a bit dry, and that's one technique. Another important one is the drink bottle, because you have to drink quite a lot over the weekend. Before you come to Malaysia, you have to start drinking. No alcohol, just some good stuff.
Tell us about this. Will you really use this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, today was pretty hot. I think we fill it up tomorrow with some water and just jump in a bit. Yeah, this is where the magic is going on. It's a little bit of a joke for my mechanics, but I think on Sunday maybe I will use it if it is hot, and it's, I think, a good way to relax a bit.
Well, Eddie, how things have changed today. No jacuzzis in your day.
Timo Glock, he was always a bit of a prankster. He's a cool guy. He drove for me, and he scored points in his first race. He's a great young driver, and it was a surprise for me not to see him at Renault, because that's where he had the chance of driving for. But, you know, commendable. He's there with a new team, and he wants to see them go up the grid, and full marks to him.
And just to remind you that Timo Glock starts 16th on the grid for today's race. A great day yesterday for the Virgin team, and also for Lotus, who start 15th as well. But how do you practically keep cool in these conditions, David?
Well, there's a number of things that the drivers will do. They'll wear like a cool suit, which draws the heat out of the body and keeps everything nice and cool. You know, they'll put their helmet in the fridge or the freezer to just sort of get a little bit of extra cooling into the protective layer there, just to give them that little bit of relief when they put it on the grid. They'll have some dry ice in around their seat, which will obviously evaporate once the race has started. But everything they can just to make those first few minutes when they're sitting in the car waiting for the race as comfortable as possible. Of course, once they're moving, adrenaline takes over. There'll be a little bit of hot air blowing around in the cockpit, and that will do the best to keep them cool.
And if you're not fit enough, and if you haven't taken on enough fluids, how much can it affect you during the race? How much can your performance drop off?
Well, it's well documented that definitely once you start getting into early stages of dehydration, you do lose decision-making capabilities, and you will lose physical strength, as we see as Pedro de la Rosa at the end of the pit lane there, obviously starting from the pit lane. So that's going to be make his weekend a bit difficult, unless he can get that started in time.
Yeah, not great for Pedro de la Rosa. We couldn't hear the team radio there, but he's obviously got a bit of a problem heading to the grid, and the grid is where Martin Brundle is waiting for us. And it's kind of hard to work out where Martin's going to be this week, Eddie, because if he's at the front, he's got some of the slower guys. If he's at the back, he's got some of the fast ones.
You know that Markel will always sniff out the talent, and he'll be at the back looking to see what's going on with Button and Hamilton, what's going on with Alonso and Massa, because that's the big story here. How are they going to come through? OK, well, we can see Martin dodging cars on the grid. Let's head over to him now for what is, Martin, one of the hottest grid walks of the year.
49 degrees track temperature, 48% humidity. I saw as it was coming down. It's falling as the afternoon unfolds. The Ferrari's still coming to the grid quite late. That's Fernando Alonso. They push the car through so it doesn't overheat and they don't run over anybody's feet. And Bruno Senna here. So you're starting behind these Ferraris. I don't suppose you expect to see them for too long.
I don't think so, but into the first corner is where everything can happen. So I think these boys will have some more to do in the first corner than we do. So we be careful and hope that they don't get into trouble, so that we don't get into trouble.
So you're going to be looking to miss the confetti of carbon fibre you're expecting, yeah?
We hope so. We don't get any punctures or don't lose any body work.
Good luck. Right, let's run along. We're talking about the McLaren F-duct in the show earlier on, and that is the bit that runs along the top there. You can see it's a channel that spoils the rear wing flow. You've got more, mind your back, Andy, mind your back. You've got more than enough grip in a straight line, much more downforce than you need. In fact, so drag always comes with downforce. And what they do, and it's not often we can get a chance to have a really good look at it, of course, they can't really stop us on the grid. But the driver closes, there's no moving parts, closes a hole with his knee, so that's Hamilton and Button going down the long straight, and it basically spoils the rear wing, so it hasn't got as much downforce, hasn't got as much drag, and they can overtake other cars. Now that, this afternoon, is going to be a very useful feature indeed. Lewis is not on the grid at the moment, but so we're expecting the McLarens to be very fast in a straight line. The Ferraris are just plain fast, I think. And here's Daddy Button here wandering around. What are you looking at, John?
Oh, I'm spying on the Ferrari, unofficial.
Have you seen anything that you that's of any note?
It's red.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you. Right, De La Rosa's stopped on the circuit, apparently. Here's a man who hasn't stopped on the circuit, which is Lewis Hamilton with Mikey. It's not Lewis Hamilton, it's Jenson Button even. Jenson. So, 17th on the grid. What can you do from here?
The best job we can, and you know, this isn't where we should be, so it's going to be difficult to pick off the cars in front once we get past the Lotuses and the Virgins, but we'll do our best, and I think we've got a pretty good car around here.
Now, this race has never been won from lower than 7th on the grid, 9 of the 11 from the front row of the grid, so isn't it all or nothing from here?
Well, it's not all about winning this weekend. I think it's important for us to pick up as many points as we can. If that's a win, that's amazing, but it's a long season, so we've got to get some good points here, and that's key, really, the consistency throughout the year. The lap to the grid, the circuit's very green, so I think it's going to catch a lot of people out. Green meaning very low grip, so I think it's going to catch a few people out in the first few laps of the race.
It's a long run down to the first corner. Will your special ducts give you an advantage even down there?
Our straight line speed's quite good, yeah. I think we don't have the advantage that we had in Melbourne. I think people have taken downforce off here to get a bit closer to us, and you know, we've got a few Ks on the car in front, sort of 5 Ks, but the Ferraris are very similar to us, so we'll see what we can do, but it'd be a fun race, and this is what Formula 1 wants, isn't it? You know?
Now, you were worried about the handling of your car yesterday morning before qualifying in the dry. Have you fixed that?
Didn't feel like it on that lap to the grid, but I'm hoping it's just because it's very low grip out there.
Oh, that's bad news. Normally they feel great going to the grid. Pedro De La Rosa has stopped at turn 3 going to the grid in the BMW Sauber. I think you've got that in vision now. We'll wander down the pits. I wanted to try and get hold of Felipe Massa, but he was very late on the grid, as you saw. Mr. Yasukawa, Bridgestone. So, what's news? What's the story on the tyres today?
Oh, I think we are watching over the weather. I hope stay dry, but perhaps rain. But also very interesting, isn't it?
And what's the crossover point, do you think? I'm hearing it's about 1 3/4 minutes per lap when you would cross over from intermediates to slicks.
Yeah, I think very, very complicated. And if someone is very good luck, they can win. And if bad luck, they are losing. Very interesting.
Okay, good to see you. I wonder if Jarno Trulli is on the grid. I'm really interested to know what the mentality is of these guys who are mixed up amongst the faster cars. They're at a place that's so reminiscent of 2005. What's the latest, Graham? What's the latest weather forecast you guys have got?
Bit of Newcastle rain, I think. Heard that it's probably going to be rain maybe as late as an hour into the race, but to be honest, it's changing every few minutes, Martin. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, good luck. Well, you're right in the thick of it here. So what do you think? So actually, I'm going to go and ask Timo what his mentality is. Thanks, Graham. And just a quick word then, if he'll talk to us. Timo, quick word. So, what's your mentality with these guys starting around you?
I just try to make my car as big as the A380, I would say, to make not life as easy as they want to have it. But I think with Jensen will be difficult at the start. I think they have just a better start than us, but all the other guys, I will try to keep them behind me.
Okay, good luck. Let's see if we can wander down and find somebody else. Jaime Al-Jaswari's car here on the grid. It's an awful long way, isn't it? Down to where the start lights are. What's going on here? Let's dive in. I love all this. What's going on here, chaps? Anybody we need to meet? It's the Lotus lot. They're all heading down. Bernie's on the grid here somewhere, I think. Bernard. How are you?
Warm.
Yeah, I know what you mean. What do you think of the season so far?
Well, it's been good, isn't it? We need a bit of rain here. Well, we couldn't have a much better grid anyway, could we?
Oh, it's brilliant. What time have you ordered the rain for today?
4:15.
4:15 precisely. Cool, and it's coming from over in the west, presumably.
Right, it'll be okay.
Yeah, okay, well, but you're normally pretty hot on this sort of thing. Who do you think's going to win?
I think you'd have to reckon on a Red Bull, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, that's true, but, you know, you never know what's going to happen if it really comes down hard. Hopefully it will.
I mean, if I was on the back of the grid, I'd want rain for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, well, hopefully we're going to have an hour of good racing and then it's going to get even more exciting.
If it doesn't rain, I want my money back.
Yeah, well, that's understandable, and I want 10% of it. See you.
Thanks, Martin, and I wonder how much Bernie's paid to get in here today. This gives you some idea of how busy it is. You saw all the people there crowding around, gearing up for the race. We're not long away now. Now then, once the race gets going, the guys here are going to have big decisions to make. You can see them getting ready for the pit stops just here behind us. Which tyres to use and when to use them is one thing, but for the drivers as well, where to be on the circuit makes a big difference if it's raining. Here's Martin Brundle to explain.
The drivers may well have to cope with dry and wet conditions today, and the car has to be set up in a compromise. On board with pole sitter Mark Webber, let's compare the two track conditions. Turn 5 and 6, 160 miles an hour. Did not need to lift the throttle. Incredible direction change and grip. Uses the curb to minimise the angle of the corner. 125 miles an hour through turns 7 and 8. Again, total confidence that the car will stick. Let's see that in the rain. This is turn 4. Squeezing the throttle very gently, approaching 5, not full throttle this time, lift off, downshift, balance the car and throttle, upshift to kill the power a little bit through the exit of 6, careful with those curves, now they want to spit you off the track, they don't want to help your lap time, 7 and 8, be careful not to run wide through the exit, just tippy-toeing his way around the racetrack. Another good comparison is the high-speed turn 12. This is what it looks like in the dry. 165 miles an hour, full throttle, using the curb through the exit and picking your line nicely for a straight braking zone into 14 onto that back straight. Compare that in the rain. This is 12 ahead of us again. Lifts off, downshifts, minds the curb on the exit, floats through the water on the way into 13. It's 70 feet wide here, 22 metres of track to choose from, but it's difficult to find enough grip. The rear tyre spinning up on the curb. Webber was the only man to choose the intermediate tyre for the top 10 shootout. Heading towards the end of the lap, he sort of floats into the entry of turn 15, runs around the outside line to avoid this slippery normal racing line covered in dry tyre rubber, straightens the car up for traction over the line. He can't see much more than this camera. Amazingly poor visibility, but a brilliant effort from Webber, his second career pole position.
So plenty of focus on Mark Webber here today and plenty of focus around Sebastian Vettel's car. Come on, DC, what are the heavies doing there?
They're getting some camera time. They're good-looking boys, and they want to get in some of the action. But no, obviously, they're protecting something private at the back of the car.
Now, Eddie, if you're questioning car ride heights and things like that, it doesn't help, does it, to have a load of blokes in sunglasses and arms folded standing in the way of the car?
Well, with what's going on there gives me the impression that there's nothing wrong with the Red Bull, because that's exactly what you do if you're trying to fool the rest of the punters, wouldn't you?
I love Eddie's approach.
To it.
Anything in Formula One, it's all about fooling other people. But
it's reverse psychology, don't worry
about it. Of course
it
is. It's very, very clever, Eddie. Let's talk about Mark Webber. How much pressure is on him? Because he needs to deliver today, doesn't he?
Well, he does, but I think there'll be big pop of pressure released yesterday in qualifying. That was a very brave decision, great qualifying, more than a second, and I think that will have taken a big weight from his shoulders. Got off the back of Melbourne, that was a really bad weekend for him on many levels.
Okay, there's certainly also pressure on Christian Horner, the team principal. He's got a team and a car that needs to start picking up some big points, and he's talking to Lee McKenzie.
Christian, a brave decision in qualifying yesterday has rewarded Mark with this lovely clear straight we've got behind us, but Sebastian's right behind him. It's going to be a incredible battle into turn 1.
Yeah, no, hopefully they'll both be sensible and you know, get a clean run through turn 1 and turn 2. It can get pretty... It can get pretty tight down there, but they should be okay.
That's your car making all that noise. But what do you know about weather? We're hearing just after 5 o'clock for rain. Is that about right from what you know?
Yeah, the weather, I mean, if you look at Eddie, it looks like it's raining already, but we think the rain's about 70 kilometres away, so it depends what time it's going to get here. But, you know, thing about Malaysia, between 5 and 7 o'clock, you can almost guarantee it's going to rain.
Okay, have a great race.
Thank you.
Eddie, your sweat is becoming globally famous. Is this a good or a bad thing?
Well, he wants to be on the television more often than the three of us put together, so kind of that evens itself out.
Oh, this is nice. A bit of sparring going on now between the two of you. David just popped into the Mercedes garage behind us, spoke to a couple of the guys about the weather at the moment. They said they think 50% chance within the next hour, yeah?
Yeah, that was about 55 minutes ago. So
I thought you'd only been in there just now.
Well,
he claims his information is brand new and hot off the press, and it never is. Let's just quickly hear from Johnny Herbert, former Grand Prix winner, has got a very busy and rather important weekend ahead. He's with Ted Kravitz.
Well, Johnny, you're the fourth steward here today, aren't you? You're looking forward to some drivers being naughty?
No, I'm not. No, I'm expecting them all to be good boys. We got some intelligent boys out there, so I'm sure they'll be able to cope quite handsomely with all the conditions that are thrown at them, but hopefully just dry ones.
Now, you know what it's like racing around here. I think you burnt your bottom once here, didn't you? Glad you're not racing today?
Yeah, no, well, I am, because it's always been very hot, very humid. It's always been very tough. What's great this weekend, we've got a hell of a mixed grid, so I think the race is going to be pretty awesome.
Okay, enjoy it, thanks.
Well, Johnny Herbert there gearing up for a busy weekend, and that man there, Kamui Kobayashi, also gearing up for a big weekend. He's qualified 9th for this Grand Prix. Remember, he's a rookie, just arrived in Formula 1. He had a couple of races last season, and compared to Fernando Alonso, who is a man brimming with experience, Fernando, of course, is starting this race right down towards the back. He starts 19th, and what he actually said during the Australian Grand Prix, David, was that after he had that spin at the first corner when he was at the back fighting his way through, the pressure was off. He could just enjoy himself and try and make up as many places as possible.
Well, he knew the moment he lost control of the car with that coming together with Jenson Button that it was going to be a tall order to actually win that Grand Prix, which of course is exactly what he set out to do at the beginning. From there on in, it's about recovery position, and I think it's great actually. He's saying he just wanted to have fun. But look what fun was. I think it was 4th place in the end.
Yeah, not a bad day for Renault. Vitaly Petrov at one point had provisional pole in the second qualifying session. He was putting in some great lap times, but he's slipped back. Now, the big decision for people like Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button is, what do they do about one Virgin car and one Lotus car right in front of them on the track here? Because if they can't get past them early, Eddie, they could be in real trouble.
Honestly, that's not the issue. They'll be by them halfway up the pit straight here. It'll be demolition, because the mindset of Hamilton and Alonso and all of the guys who are at the back will be that they will breeze by, and it's sensible that the Lotus and people let them go.
Yeah, I agree with Eddie. Those teams need 8 mirrors on the car. There's going to be cars swarming all over them. They just don't have the top speed to hold those big teams back.
But if you were in a Virgin or a Lotus, you wouldn't be letting the guys through. You're racing them. This is Grand Prix racing.
Yeah, that's right. But we've got one of the widest racetracks here. This isn't Australia, which is a temporary circuit and very narrow. This is the widest track on the calendar, so they can pass them left, right, any way they want.
OK, Felipe Massa would have been hoping for 3 pole positions in a row, a hat-trick this season. That's not going to happen to him. The news we're hearing about Pedro de la Rosa is that he won't be starting this Grand Prix. He stopped on his way out towards the grid. He's now doing interviews in the paddock. It's been a tough start, actually, for that team, for the Sauber team, Eddie.
Well, look, for a couple of reasons. They came in at the very, very last moment, the BMW pulling out and they getting the list, and their sponsors going to Mercedes. So, very tough time for Peter Sauber.
Pedro, I feel sorry for him. He would have drank about 6 litres of fluid in preparation for this Grand Prix. He's not going to get the chance to sweat it out now, is he?
No, he isn't, which is a shame for him. He'll be on the toilet all afternoon. That man has been to the toilet, Mark Webber. He nipped off the grid. He's now back. He's on pole. Eddie, can he turn pole into his first win of the season?
Well, he was electric yesterday, and I thought he drove a very good race at Melbourne. 1 or 2 little indiscretions, but yes, he can do this.
David?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a dry track so far. From there, he'll be able to, I think, open up a gap. And the only thing that's going to stop him is the rain.
OK, well, in 2009, we didn't even get to the end of the Malaysian Grand Prix. What fun and games will the weather bring? Not just for the guys at the front, but for the championship leaders who'll be battling from the back. It's perfectly set up for the Malaysian Grand Prix. It's going to be tasty, and that's before the rain arrives. It's now time to hand over to Jonathan and Martin.